Under the scorching sun of Mexico City, a high-profile trial was reaching its climax. Rita Mora Castro, a sharp, calculating lawyer, stood at the defense table, her expression unreadable. She was representing Gabriel Mendoza, a well-known public figure accused of murdering his wife. The evidence against him was undeniable, and Rita knew the truth. But truth wasn't always what won cases. Using legal maneuvering and strategic storytelling, she helped her colleagues spin the narrative, reclassifying the wife's death as a suicide. Mendoza walked free. Justice had not been served. And Rita knew it. As the courtroom emptied, she retreated to the bathroom, staring at her reflection, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. That's when her phone buzzed. An anonymous caller, their voice distorted, gave her a cryptic instruction: go to the newsstand in 10 minutes. Rita hesitated. Who was calling? Why the secrecy? After a moment of contemplation, she decided to follow the lead. She arrived at the newsstand, scanning her surroundings. Then, before she could react, a bag was thrown over her head. Darkness. The rough jolt of movement. She was in a van speeding away from the city. Hours passed before they finally stopped. The bag was ripped away, and Rita found herself in the middle of the Mexican desert facing none other than Juan Manitas del Monte, a feared and legendary cartel kingpin. Rita, ever the professional, kept her composure. She had heard of Manitas, knew the stories, the reputation. But she wasn't here for a cartel negotiation. Manitas had brought her out here for something personal. He was transitioning to be a woman, and he wanted her help with it. The brutal gangster had already begun hormone treatments, and now they needed legal guidance for the next step. Rita had expected a dangerous job, but she hadn't expected this. Yet here she was, weaving through the bustling city, searching for the right surgeon for the most dangerous client of her career, Juan Manitas del Monte, cartel kingpin and one of the most feared figures in Mexico. Manitas wanted to transition, and Rita was the only one who could make it happen. But there was no room for delays. Manitas' patience wore thin. The cartel's enforcers sent her chilling reminders that failure was not an option. When progress slowed, the threats weren't just whispered warnings, they were clear, violent messages. Rita finally arranged a meeting with Dr. Wasserman, a world-renowned surgeon. Their conversation was tense but honest. He hesitated. This wasn't just a medical case, it was a political minefield. But as Rita pressed, the doctor finally agreed to meet Manitas, understanding the depth of the cartel leader's conviction. Meanwhile, Rita found herself drawn into another side of Manitas' world, the one he was preparing to leave behind. Jessie, Manitas' wife, and their children, Angel and Diego, had no future in Mexico if this transformation was to succeed. Their safety depended on disappearing. Rita worked tirelessly, forging new identities, arranging passports, and securing a way out. Switzerland. A fresh start, away from the violence that had defined their lives. The day of their departure was bittersweet. At the airport, Jessie held onto Rita, tears streaming down her face. She was leaving behind the man she once loved, the father of her children, but she understood. Juan was already gone. Back in Mexico, Manitas made the final move. A staged gang execution. A bloody, convincing scene broadcast to the underworld. The gangster was dead. Jessie heard the news and broke down in grief, knowing she could never see the person she once knew. But this was the only way. In a hidden location, under the careful hands of Dr. Wasserman, Manitas underwent the final transformation, and when he awoke, Emilia Pérez was born. Finally, truly herself. 4 years had passed, and Rita was no longer the woman she once was. The weight of ruthless cases and life-or-death negotiations had been replaced by luxury and ease. Her life in Mexico was comfortable now, a well-earned reward for the high-stakes job she had pulled off. One evening, while out at an upscale restaurant, laughing over dinner with friends, a presence made her pause. A woman approached her table, poised, elegant, but with an unmistakable intensity in her gaze. Then, in just a few words, Rita knew. Emilia Pérez. The transformation was complete. Gone was Juan Manitas del Monte, the feared cartel boss. In his place stood a woman who had reclaimed her identity. But Emilia wasn't here for pleasantries. She had come with a request. She wanted her family back. Rita hesitated. Jesse and the boys had built a new life, one without the shadow of Manitas hanging over them. But Emilia was persistent. She didn't expect to step back into their lives as the person she once was. She simply wanted to see them again. So Rita made it happen. She arranged for Jesse and the children to visit Emilia's home, crafting a careful lie that Emilia was Manitas' cousin and aunt to the boys. It was a fragile illusion, but it was the only way to make the reunion possible. The moment was bittersweet. Emilia's sons were overjoyed to meet her, their young minds accepting the story without question. But Jessie? She saw right through it. She wasn't fooled by the softer tone, the new name, the changed appearance. This was Manitas, no matter how much had changed. The warmth of reunion was tainted with tension. Jessie was not ready to forgive. And perhaps she never would be. As the night stretched on, her mind wandered, not to Emilia, but to an old connection. Gustavo Brun, a figure from her past who had once held her heart. And now, as memories of Manitas resurfaced, Jessie found herself drawn to the idea of rekindling something with him. During a quiet lunch with Rita, Emilia encountered a woman searching for her missing son. The desperation in her voice, the hollow look in her eyes, it was a familiar pain, one that had echoed through countless families left in the wake of cartel violence. Emilia had spent years burying that part of herself, but the past was never truly gone. As she returned home, she tucked her son into bed. He studied her for a moment before murmuring that she smelled like his father. The words lingered long after he drifted off to sleep, settling in her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. Determined to atone, Emilia turned to Rita, who used her connections to strike deals with imprisoned cartel members. Information led them to hidden mass graves, long-forgotten victims finally uncovered. Among them, the missing son was identified. With every name recovered, the urgency to do more grew stronger. Emilia poured herself into founding La Lucecita, a non-profit dedicated to justice for those lost in cartel violence. Families finally had a place to turn, a voice in the fight against the silence that had once swallowed them whole. Rita's legal expertise ensured the foundation thrived, securing funding and recognition. While Emilia devoted herself to this cause, Jessie drifted further into her affair with Gustavo. The past was something she wasn't ready to leave behind, and in her own way, she was trying to make sense of it. Conversations with Emilia became more raw and unfiltered. The memories of her life with Manitas surfaced, not just the fear and chaos, but the love, the control, the complicated emotions she had never fully confronted. Emilia listened, absorbing the unspoken truths that had once gone ignored. To expand the NGO, Emilia and Rita planned a high-profile gala, drawing in Mexico's most influential figures. The event sparkled with luxury, but beneath the polished smiles and generous donations, the reality remained unchanged. Many of the attendees had built their wealth on the very violence Emilia was trying to fight. The irony was impossible to ignore. Even as progress was being made, the world around them remained tainted. But she had chosen her path, and she would see it through, no matter how deep the contradictions ran. When Epifania Flores approached her, grief wasn't the only emotion in her eyes. Her husband's remains had been identified by La Lucecita, confirming what she had long suspected. He was dead. Yet, as she spoke, the weight on her shoulders seemed to lift. She recalled his abuse, the years of fear and helplessness. And now, knowing he was gone, she felt something she hadn't expected. Relief. Emilia understood that feeling all too well. Before Epifania left, she quietly slipped a knife into her purse. Not for revenge, not to encourage violence, but as a quiet message, never again. What began as an act of understanding soon deepened into something more. Emilia and Epifania found solace in each other's company, a connection neither had anticipated. The past was riddled with pain, but for the first time in a long while, Emilia allowed herself to embrace something new. Meanwhile, Rita found herself caught between the life she had built and the chaos still unfolding around her. She confided in Emilia, expressing the exhaustion of balancing personal and professional struggles. She reassured her that the NGO would not exist without her, that her work meant something. But Rita could feel the tension rising in other areas of their lives. At a club, Rita spotted Jessie with Gustavo, their affair now out in the open. The truth wasn't hidden anymore, and soon, Jessie made it clear. She was leaving. She wanted a fresh start with Gustavo and the boys, away from the remnants of her old life. Emilia did not take it well. She saw the children as hers, as part of a life she had built and sacrificed for. Rage boiled beneath the surface, and she acted swiftly. One of her men found Gustavo, beat him, and handed him enough money to disappear. It was a warning, a final reminder that he had no place in their lives. But Jessie refused to be controlled. She took her children and left, knowing there would be consequences. And there were. Emilia cut off her finances. No more support. No more safety net. If Jessie wanted to leave, she would have to survive on her own. Rita, now trapped in the middle of their war, had no choice but to play mediator. Both women turned to her, Jessie, seeking stability, Emilia, demanding loyalty. Lines had been drawn, and Rita stood right in the center, watching as everything unraveled. When Epifania stopped by Rita's office, their conversation was cut short by a chilling discovery. Emilia had been kidnapped. The weight of the news settled in like a heavy fog, but nothing could have prepared them for what came next. A package arrived at Rita's workplace. Inside, wrapped with a sickening precision, were 3 of Emilia's fingers. The message was clear. There would be no mercy. Desperation turned to action. Rita tracked down Gustavo, the man responsible for it all. He had a demand: money for Emilia's life. There was no choice but to play his game. Rita moved quickly, assembling a team of officers and heading to the location Gustavo had provided. But it was a trap. Gunmen were already waiting. The second they spotted law enforcement, bullets tore through the air, shattering any illusion of negotiation. In the chaos, Emilia was forced to confront the truth she had long kept buried. She turned to Jessie, the woman who had once been her wife, and finally said the words that had gone unspoken for years. She was Manitas. Memories flooded between them. The love, the lies, the power, the pain. Jessie had spent years hating Manitas, fearing him, running from his shadow. And yet, standing before her now was Emilia, a woman she had once loved and a woman she had betrayed. Before either could process what it truly meant, Gustavo made his move. He grabbed Emilia, forcing her into the trunk of his car. The fight was over. He had won. And Jessie, caught between her guilt and survival, had no choice but to go with him. But something shifted. Jessie couldn't let it end like this. With the weight of everything crashing down on her, she turned her gun on Gustavo, ordering him to stop the car. He refused. The struggle between them was quick, brutal, and in the chaos, the car veered off the road, straight into an explosion. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained. Emilia, Jessie, Gustavo, all gone. Whatever they had been running from, whatever battles they had been fighting, it was over. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Rita took in the boys. They had lost their mother, both of them. Jessie and Emilia were gone, leaving behind a fractured past and an uncertain future. Rita, who had once been caught in the storm of their lives, now found herself responsible for the only pieces left behind. Grief settled in like an unwelcome guest. Emilia had fought to change, to atone, to build something meaningful. And yet, the past had refused to let her go. Rita mourned not just for the woman Emilia had become, but for the life she could have had, the one that had been stolen too soon. But in Mexico City, something powerful was happening. Epifania took to the streets, not in mourning, but in defiance. She led a march, joined by others whose lives had been touched by Emilia's fight. La Luchacita had been more than an organization. It had been hope. Emilia's name was carried through the streets, her legacy woven into the chants of those demanding justice. And that's Emilia Pérez. From feared gangster to a woman fighting for justice, only to be caught in the very world she tried to escape. Her story ends in tragedy, but her legacy lives on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns.